All right, so let's look at Ben, and he's asking the question, when should I claim Social Security benefits? Now, Ben is single, and so deciding on when to claim Social Security benefits is going to be on me, myself, and I. Because when Ben goes into Social Security, when Ben goes into retirement as a single person, there will be no one else, no other retirement assets, no other retirement income except his. So making the decision based on me, myself, and I is very, very important. So let's look at this. Let's go through the facts first, and then we'll decide when to claim Social Security. So here we go. We got Ben. Now, he's in real estate, and his current gross monthly salary is about $3,000 a month, which is $36,000 a year. Now, he does work on commission, so he's got a base salary plus commission. All right. Now, his projected retirement age is 55 years old. So we're 53. We're going to retire at 55. What do we need to do when claiming Social Security, right? We got 2 years before we retire. If we take Social Security at 67, we've got 12 years before we get to Social Security. If we retire at 55 and we claim at 62, then we've only got, what's that, 7 years, or 8 years really, before we get to Social Security. So we've got to determine what makes the most sense. For Ben, he might need to work a little longer too, depending on the strategy or depending on what we're looking at. So again, Social Security for him is going to be based on what he does. So we're looking at a Social Security at 67 of $2,900. Now, we do have projected COLA on this of 2.58%. Now, for my planning, what I'm not going to do is increase the Social Security with inflated dollars. Now, if you're in your 30s or 40s and you're trying to plan out Social Security, obviously there's a couple factors that are out there, like, is Social Security going to be the same as it is today? But another thing that you want to look at is future dollars. What's your dollar going to be worth at 62, 67, 70 if you're in your 40s? You can do that on SSA.gov's website, Social Security Administration.gov's website. We do that a lot when we're doing a year financial EKG, but I want to be real conservative in my planning, because if the plan works on a conservative level, then I know it's going to even work better when we get a cost of living increases, when the market does better than we're projecting and all that stuff, okay? Now, we don't have any pensions. So if we go to assets, we've got a lot of different assets here. Let's just basically go to the numbers. We've got $880,000, okay? So we've got $880,000. We're making a contribution to a 401k of $360 per month with a company match. We're not making any other contributions at this point. We're going to retire at 55. Okay, so we're 53, we're going to retire at 55. We're trying to determine when are we going to claim Social Security. Now, our portfolio, we're going to look at a 6% rate of return. Now, the reason I'm going to use a 6% rate of return for my projection is because Ben is a better investor than most. He's pretty good at what he does. I'm not saying he's Warren Buffett, but, you know, the market for the last 100 years or so has averaged 10 to 11%. Let's say that's 8 to 9 with inflation. So we're going to back up about 3% to 6. We could be even more conservative. And again, when we go through a financial EKG, we're even more conservative in our projections. I'm usually looking at 4 and 5%, but for Ben, he wanted 6%. So we're going to use the 6% for this scenario. Okay. But again, what we can look at, well, let's just do this for you guys. Let's say before retirement, we get 6% on everything but the bank, right? The bank, what are we going to earn at the bank? Let's say we earn 2% at the bank. Okay. But let's say after retirement, let's say we only want to earn 4%. So what we can do is we can actually project out 2 separate rates of return. So what the client is able to do, or what you're able to see in this case on YouTube, is I'm 37. I'm investing more for growth. But if I were to retire, my investments should not look the same today as they do when I retire. So 6 to 4. Okay, so we'll look at that and see if that changes our strategy with claiming Social Security benefits. So our portfolio weighted average right now is about 5.97%. That's going to go down, obviously, when we get into retirement. All right. Now, from an expense standpoint, Ben has been very, very what's the word I want to look for? He has looked at his expenses over and over and over again, and he has been very diligent about what he is spending. We're going to look at $3,500 a month with inflation. 3.27 is going to be our inflation. Now, keep in mind, $3,500 a month for a single person might be right where you're at. And we're using an inflation rate of 3.27%, which is the 109-year average for inflation. So $3,500 today is not going to be $3,500 10, 15, 20 years from now. So that plays a big factor in when we're going to claim Social Security, right? When do we want that Social Security check to kick in to help us with our inflated expenses so that we don't have to pull out as much from our retirement income accounts? Again, we're going to look at all this here in just a second. Now, from a cash flow standpoint, we have multiple different cash flows that we're looking at. We want $55,000 worth of income over and above what we're guaranteeing. We want extra income for travel. We've got some new cars built in here. We've got an inheritance of $175,000 built in, and we've got a little part-time work of $1,250. Now, Ben's going to work part-time, not at his current job because it's stressful. He's going to work part-time because he's a single guy. All right. He's got one son. The son's going to be grown. He just wants to work just to keep his mind sharp. That doesn't mean you have to do that. A lot of people will comment on this video and say, Drew, you didn't help him retire because he worked part-time. That's what he wants to do. I'm not the one dictating his life. I just talked to a gentleman in California this week who said, hey, Drew, I've been laid off. I want to know, can I retire? And I do not want to work anymore. That video is to come, keep in mind. So we need to look at all these different factors. And so that's what we're going to look at here in cash flows. So we go to pre-retirement, and essentially we've got $880,000 currently. We've got about $938 when we get to 55. We go to retirement, and at 55, we're out of money at 75 years old. This is not the scenario that we want. Now, we do have a condo. It's not on here yet, but that's a protected asset. The condo would be here. He's looking at currently moving, so we're not adding that into our scenario yet because we don't know what that's going to look like. We're trying to do a cash change. And obviously for Ben, we've got a lot more factored in here than most people do. We've got there's a new car factored in. We've got other new cars factored in. We've got this inheritance coming in. So there's a lot of things that are factored in that we might not normally factor into a scenario because he's been so diligent about this. But what we want to look at is this. Does claiming Social Security at 67 make this scenario the best? I don't know. So let's look at changing our Social Security scenario. So we're going to look at starting Social Security at a different age. And so what we're going to do within the software is it's going to tell us, hey, this is the best time to claim Social Security. Okay. So for Ben, claiming at 67 makes the most sense in this scenario. Let's see what happens if we back it up to 62. Well, he's at 75, claiming at 67. We're out of money at 74, claiming at 62. What about 70? Now we're out at 72. That's because we're draining our retirement assets too much early, right? We're taking so much of our retirement savings that it's drawing down these accounts even before we get to Social Security. So for Ben, 67 is when he should claim Social Security. But that's not the only thing we need to look at. We might have to retire a little later. And I know that I'm going to be struck by lightning because I said that, especially in the comment section. But he is too young to retire with the amount of assets that he has. As a fiduciary, I'm just telling you the truth. So we need to look at that. So his retirement date right now is 10 of 2025. It's 55 years. What if we go to 2027? What if we retire at 57? Now that pushes him 2 more years. What if we go to 60? Oh, look at that. If we work till 60, it gets us all the way to 85. Now I'm feeling a lot better about what's going on. So here's what we're doing. We're claiming Social Security at 67, and we're going to work an extra 5 years. That's going to get him to 85 years old. At that point, we've got the house, we can do a reverse mortgage, we can maybe work part-time a little longer. Remember, he's open to working part-time. And again, he's going to travel and enjoy himself. He's talking about working, he's from Colorado, maybe working at Coors Field or Mile High Stadium, part-time usher. That's what I want to do. I want to usher at Tropicana Field or whatever it's called when I get to that age. Watch some free baseball. Hey, can I help you to your seat? What's your number there? You know, that's fun for me, right? So in his case, we've got to look at these different factors. And there's so many things that we can look at. You know, we can look at contributions. Can he increase his contributions? What about the withdrawal order? Does it make sense to change the withdrawal order on his investments? Home downsize. We've talked about that. We're looking at that. HECM, home equity conversion mortgage. That's a reverse mortgage. Does that make sense? Protected asset sale. Do you have gold? Do you have collector cars, whatever? Is there something that's going to help push this maybe into the 90s? But 85 is still pretty good. So this is what I'm talking about. So for Ben, as a single guy, when does it make the most sense for him to claim Social Security benefits? And if he said 62, he would be wrong based on his current scenario because there's so much going into it that we need to look at. So listen, I hope this has helped. I hope this helped you decide when you should claim Social Security benefits. If you want to get in touch with us, all the information is below. God bless. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.